Hi everyone, Callie here. Welcome back to the channel. Today I am going to be reviewing the owl from the Forest Animals set. It is set number 31154. It has 667 pieces. The set was released on March 1st, 2024, and it retails for $50 US. I did already build the fox, and the review of that is up on my channel already if you're interested in what I had to say about the main build of the set. My cats tried to use this as a chew toy, and my youngest actually tried to get inside, and when he couldn't, he then just sat on it because, you know, cats. Regardless, this is the best view of the alternative build. I say alternative build, but it's not really. It's just one of the other builds from the set. So when you start one of the other builds, the instruction manual just tells you to take all 5 bags and put them into a container and then build it from there. So you're not building it like in nice build stages. It's all in one. One thing that surprised me when I was building the set was how many pieces would be left over. I expected there to be some. Of the 667 pieces, I thought maybe 600 or so would go into the owl. But that is not the case. I have a lot of pieces left over. And for some people that might not matter so much, but to me it does, right? Like if I'm buying a Creator 3-in-1 set and my desire is to build one of the alternate builds, I want to know out of the number of pieces, right? This is 667 pieces. It was $50. Great deal. But if I'm only using maybe 500 of those parts to build this guy, not such a great deal. I'm left with 500 piece set for $50. It's not super great. And then I'm also thinking, well, what am I supposed to do with all these parts? And some of them are not easy parts to just sort of incorporate into what you're doing. Like we've got like this ball joint here. I don't know what to do with that. I've got some of these, which are hard to incorporate into a sort of city or any other build too, and like these kind of connector pieces. And I just think that, yes, I know at the back of the instruction manual, it tells you, oh, actually it doesn't. It doesn't tell you in the instruction manual exactly which pieces are used for the build. Well, now my gripe is pretty valid, right? Like, because I was thinking that what I could do is use these parts left over, buy what I needed, and then I could build the squirrel because it's probably cheaper to do that than just go buy another set. But if it doesn't tell you in the instructions exactly what's needed for that set, then you can't do that. Huh. Well, there you go. So yeah, you're building the owl, you're going to be left with this. Good luck with that. Okay, my gripe is over, don't worry, and I'm back to just appreciating Lego for all its greatness. And how cute is this owl? It is so perfect. I am so happy with this owl. I'm so happy with how well it looks on its little tree stump there too. It's perfectly proportioned, which was one of my major sort of criticisms of the fox set, was that side build just was not proportional at all to the fox itself. But the bird here, the owl, the way it's sitting on this tree, oh, it is perfect, right? Like proportionally, it is spot on, and that really appeals to me. I don't have this stupid side build that I have to try and figure out in a display. When we put together this build, we do create the owl first and then the tree stump, which is a pretty nice way of doing it. The owl can stand on its own, but it is pretty insecure. You're just looking at it sitting on these little teeth joints here for the claws, and then like one point at the back at its tail. So you definitely do want to sit it on the tree stump when we get there. Let's take a look at the nice construction of this owl, because it was put together in a pretty beautiful way. Now I'm going to pull off the wings. We are going to leave this architecture here, which I'll take off and then I'll put back together at the end. The ball joint just wants to stay with that. This is not strong enough to be pulled off together. But once we take the wings off, you can really get a good look at the internal structure and how this was created. Here, what I really want to point out is we go up a stud every stud. And that helps create the angle to put together this beautiful sort of chest fur that we have here too. It helps a lot, of course, that these pieces are just absolutely perfect. They're used on roofs and used for fur on animals, and it really does look like that, especially on this owl. But you can see how we put together that plate to create that angle, and that's a pretty nice piece of construction. And the use of parts is really quite clever when you think about the fact that this is using the same pieces that were for the fox. And the fox chest fur was completely different and a different color, and yet it looks like this was perfectly designed just for that. The head does articulate. Ooh, it can be crazy, but owls do that, right? So that actually makes a lot of sense on this model. It's not creepy and weird and poltergeisty. It makes a lot of sense. I think they can do 270, something like that. There's nothing to actually stop it being completely round. That would be insane. But it totally is great that you can sort of nicely articulate it to be at whatever angle you want it to be at. That is pretty nice. When we come to the back of the model, though, it does have a sort of unfortunate flaw here, is that I don't know why this is showing. Everything else is beautifully tiled off and, you know, nice textures and everything. And then here we've got just the back of these plates to put in there. It's to hold, obviously you need something structural to hold those plate pieces together. I am sort of looking at the alternative pieces we have left, and I don't think we have, I mean, we could have done some, maybe not. We got these, I don't know, maybe that's prior decision that was put there, and probably people thought it's the back. It doesn't really matter. And the tail is pretty cute, right? It's got those same sort of thatched pieces with the teeth at the either side, just to create that sort of feathered look at the bottom. It is just a simple construct of a plate and then that ball joint in there. And the ball joint sits at the bottom of the block that we make at the very beginning. And it's even got an inverted tooth there for a little bit of a tufty fur if you really want that in the middle, sort of in the butt. So the tail just sort of sits in there. It can rotate at any angle you want it to sit at if you know, had it in flying mode or whatever. And mostly it's just going to sit up like that so you can see the bottom of the tail. The bottom of the feet are actually pretty nice. They're on those little clippy rotators. I'm not sure exactly what you call those, but you know, the ones that click into place. So you can move the claws if you wanted to. You're not going to want to, because if you move it at any other angle, it's not going to stand. A really nice feature of the owl, and I hope my camera can pick it up for you, is how beautifully these eyes are created. So it's the inverse socket of this annoying piece you have left, but inside are actually just the little balls. In fact, let me go grab one from my parts inventory so I can show you what I'm talking about. So yeah, it's one of these little balls, just the little balls, you know, it's got the little sticks at the back. So they are stuck into that socket to create the eyes. It gives the eye depth, it gives it framing, but it doesn't make it creepy. And it's actually probably some of the least creepy eyes I've ever seen on a Lego animal that is brick built. That looks so good, so clean. I'm so impressed with that. I really was. I was like, when I was putting it together, I'm like, they want me to do what? And then I put it in the build, I'm like, it's gorgeous. The wings are mirror images of each other, so we can actually appreciate the back and the front simultaneously if we sort of look at it that way. However, the back is pretty much as you would expect. It's just sort of plate construct and then some of these curved tile pieces that we use to prevent friction. But I do like the way that they've created this edge here. It's actually the part that goes down the feathered part of the owl's body. And this might just be a happy coincidence, or maybe something the designers really thought about. But the texture here, because you've got different, it's not rectangular pieces, right? You get these little gaps at the edge of the plate, and it sort of actually creates this nice sort of feathered texture to it. And I like that. I think that gives it just a little bit more dimension. On the other side, it is more solid, right? And that's also a great choice, but it's not as sort of fluffy and feather-like as this side is. The front is exactly as you'd expect, with a lot of tile and curves to create sort of a nice polished finish, but we also have enough there to create texture, showing some feathering as well. We've got the teeth element here, which is in the dark tan, which contrasts nicely with the dark orange. And then we've also got one of these pieces down here that's in white to create the bottom tip of the feather. Also, I like to point out that we've got these quarter drawn tiles that reminds me of how we did the feathering technique on Fox from Harry Potter. That's what that reminds me of, and it looks really nice and clean. The wings do fit in pretty comfortably. Once you've got all the pieces on there, you just click. It is on a ball joint, so you do have a slight range of motion there, but really you want it sitting like that. Sort of hides a little bit more of this joint gap that we have in here. You can see basically we're filling in this cavity here, and it fits just beautifully. I think it's a really nice piece of design. It's solid. So now you got a nice little bird. Woohoo! The tree stump is the second part of the build, and it doesn't take long to put together at all, but it is actually put together pretty well. I like how we've got this sort of rounded plate here just to build up the texture of the snow as if it's sort of mounded around the tree trunk itself. And it's always nice that they've got this printed piece sort of showing more prominently here than they did on the Fox model. At the side here, it is up to you how this is displayed. I had mine closed because I was transporting it from my den where I've been sitting watching Euro 2024 with my cats, and had it closed just for portability. But now you can see how it's actually on. I think I have a spare one. Yes, here it is. Here's a spare one. So it's one of those. It's just sort of attached in there. And then these sort of 4 exactly the same, and that's 3 layers of those little branch pieces put together to create that effect. And you can put this however you want. It sort of looks with whatever you got going on a display or whatever, but it looks barren, but in the right kind of way, because it is snow, so it shouldn't be completely full. We've got 2 brackets up here for the feet of the owl, and then the nice sort of shield piece there just to give it a nice sort of polished place for the animal to sit. The back, it is pretty plain and pretty depressing. You don't really want to look at that. That's definitely a behind the scenes kind of thing. You don't really want to look at these kind of layers of plate and the way that this is constructed at the bottom. But it is nice, and I'm going to criticize this in a minute, but it is nice there is a bit of thickness to the base of this. It does help quite a bit with the stability of the owl model itself. Now, I will say that this branch is maybe a little thick here at the bottom, and it's mostly because of this fact that we used this ball joint, and the only thing that we had in the set was this giant piece, right? And so because we've got a brick there instead of plate, all the construction has been on plate above it, and so now we've got this giant thick piece here that is a little out of proportion, honestly, compared to how it probably should be. It does give you nice articulation, though, and you can sort of twist obviously this in any way you want and help you decide how you would like the model to show. Do you want to show a little bit more of that tile? I'll probably like this angle. All these little branches, yeah, that's not totally secure. So when you're moving these, remember move them by the bottom dark reddish brown piece. If you move it by the top forward, it's just going to snap off. So yeah, you want to make sure that you're moving it by that bottom piece, or you're going to keep breaking that part there. The same will apply up here, even though this is a ball joint. Yep, that will fall off pretty easily. That is not secured. It's because it's just plate on plate, and then you're creating all the tension in this one piece, and so it's going to easily want to come apart. That is a slight flaw, but this is a display piece. It's not a play piece, so it's something you can sort of set up how you want it and then let it be, right? Same thing with the little extra pieces here. Same construction as what's going on down here. So once you put your bird on there, you can put the owl on there, you can kind of decide what you want to do. I like this. I think this is nice. I think this is good foliage. I think it's a nice stump for the owl to sit on. It doesn't take anything away from the owl, but it enhances sort of the scene of the owl. Like, you don't want to just have this owl on your shelf, right? That looks kind of like, okay, well, where's the rest of it? But you pop that on there. Let me just move this down so I get plenty of space for the owl. And it just connects on those 2 little things there, like that. And then you can start to bring this up and change angles as you so please, so it looks how you want it to look. I'm going to talk a little bit about stability. Now, I am not an engineer, so whatever I say here might be wrong, but this is my understanding of what is kind of wrong with this model and why it sort of doesn't feel as secure as it should. And that's the center of gravity of the owl is here, which is right here on the model. It's 1 stud over from where it's actually connected to the base. The center of gravity of the base is also in the middle of that shaft, right? It's right there. So the center of gravity is off by 1 stud. Now, because this is top heavy, it doesn't feel secure. It doesn't feel good. Like, yep, there we go. I wasn't moving that hard. Let me do that again. Let's see if it falls this time. I think I might have had a better more secure, so maybe it'll be okay. Okay, she's probably good, but she does sort of want to fall forward. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a Lego designer. I don't know how I'd fix that. I don't know if there should be something sort of clipped to the back to help that work. If in fact if it would be fine if you moved that back 1 stud. Like, if I maybe changed it so the feet were here, would it suddenly be more stable? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not that skilled at Lego building or understanding structure. I just knew that when I put the owl on, she did want to fall off pretty often, and it was something I was a little bit concerned about. Now that I've completed the owl, I thought I'd bring over the fox and see if I could make some sort of decision as to which model I prefer. And if I was right, then indeed the owl is the one for me. So the fox, if you watch my video on it, you know that I really like the model, but I had one big critique about it, and I'm still not over it, and it's the gap in the tail. I know, it has to be there because of the size of the ball joint. If you're going to get this kind of articulation, you need to have the ball joint in there, and with that ball joint in this kind of way, you're never going to not have a gap. I'm still not over it. It's something I'm going to have to get past in my life at some point, but right now I'm just not ready. I'm just not ready to forgive this gap in this tail. He does, however, have a lot of really cool features. The way that the legs articulate, and you can kind of have him in any pose. Like, look at him right now. He's ready to pounce or maybe play. He's like, hey, let's play. His ears move. His mouth opens. His head can sort of tilt to the side. And he's like, hi, I'm cute. Remember that I'm cute. Yeah, okay. I'm getting a little carried away here. But the model has some really great things about it. It is an exceptional piece of design. The side build for the fox, it is a beautiful side build. Like, don't get me wrong. This is really cute. This is going to probably go right in my winter village. It just doesn't belong with the fox. It just is not the right size. If this is the size of the fox and this is the size of the tree stump, I am scared of this fox. This fox is absolutely going to destroy us and become our overlords. That's just the way it is. And that's fine. Sometimes in Lego, things aren't to scale and you just live with it. But this is so out of proportion that it frightens me. And like I said about the owl, like this tree stump doesn't take away from the owl, but it adds something to the model. This adds nothing to the fox model. So that's sort of a negative for the fox. The negatives for the fox are the weird side build that doesn't really do anything for it and the tail. It's got a lot of pros though, and it does look really good. And I do come into my Lego room and change his poses so he looks a little different every time. The owl, as I said in this video, isn't perfect, right? Main gripe for me is the fact that I got all these parts left over. I should count them actually real quick and then tell you exactly how many parts there are. I was well off. This is 242 pieces. Now, that does include all the spare pieces and probably some miscounting, so let's call it 200 pieces. That actually makes the set very poor value because that's basically, what, a 450 piece set for $50 in a non-licensed theme? That's not good, and I think that's something that Lego really should disclose. That is a major con for this set, and is something just to be aware of if you're buying this just to build the owl. You're not necessarily getting the best value for money. As for the owl, I've discussed a few things in this video that I think could have been done better. The primary one, of course, is always the stability of a model. This does concern me, but I seem to have got it on a lot better than I have in previous attempts, and it seems to be holding quite well. As you saw, I couldn't shake it off the second time, so maybe it's okay. There's some fragility here on these branches, but once you set it up, it's going to be fine. It's not something I need to move and change around all the time. It's not like the fox where I'm going to come in and change its display ability. And I suppose that's a negative for this set compared to the original build or the main build of this 3-in-1 is that this is it. You know, you can't really change how this looks, whereas the fox, he can be standing, he can be sitting, he can be... Can he sit in two back? No, he can't possibly. Oh my goodness. He can! I don't think I did that before. He's on his back legs. Let me do him a favor and get him from a good angle. He's on his back leg. Look at that. It's like he's begging for a treat or something. Okay, that adds extra points, and he's using that giant tail for stability. Interesting. Based on that, which one's my favorite? In all honesty, it's probably going to be the owl. I should have gone with my instincts and known that I was going to love the owl the most. I think it's just a better overall model compared to the fox, but the fox is stunning. I think that's the great thing about this particular 3-in-1 set. There's going to be people who are like, I don't want to build the fox, the owl, give me the squirrel all the way. And I probably should get the squirrel, and wouldn't it be cute to have like this, and then squirrel. Imagine squirrel right there. That's going to be a beautiful way of sort of displaying those sets. One thing I didn't actually mention, and I should say, is that this was really easy to construct. This was not a difficult technical build. If you want a really difficult technical build, this is what I'm currently working on right now. It is the Hulkbuster. I'm actually doing the Ransom Firm Ripple model, so it looks a little different from the official model, but oh my goodness, now that is a technical build. But it sort of makes me laugh at how big these things are in comparison. Like, that literally fits between his legs. The Hulkbuster is going to be amazing. That video will be coming out. I mean, I actually haven't even finished building it yet. I'm sort of building it slowly while I watch Euro 2024, but we'll get there. Thank you so much for watching my review of the owl. I had a good time building her, and I think she looks great despite the few shortcomings that this model does have. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button below to let me know. And of course, do hit the subscribe button while you're at it to make sure you don't miss out on any great content in the near future. Thanks again for watching. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Bye for now.